Oh, excuse me. Hello, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to another episode of rev.hagen's Horrific Cinematic Dissection. As always, I'm your host, Rev.hagen, and as always, I'd like to welcome our listeners at SCRMradio.com. That's SCREAMradio.com for all your horror and paranormal needs. Again, I apologize for my voice. It's the wee hours of the morning. My autoimmune gig is kicking in, and I sound like a 65-year-old blues singer. Wrote a song about it. Like to hear it, here it goes. That's the kind of voice we're dealing with tonight, and I apologize. Tonight, we're going to look at a classic 1980s John Carpenter's The Fog. Of course, directed and written by John Carpenter, also written by Deborah Hill, one of the great collaborators with John Carpenter. This glorious movie stars Adrienne Barbeau. Thank you. In the 80s, Adrienne Barbeau, when she was crazy sexy, instead of the kind of creepy Adrienne Barbeau we got going, she does a lot of really interesting stuff now. Like she played the leader of a pedophile ring on Sons of Anarchy, and she was horrifying in that. But this is back when she was young and pretty. She used to be on Maude, this kind of groundbreaking show back in the day that was a spinoff on the Archie Bunker show, right? She had played, the main character in Maude had played his sister-in-law. And Adrienne Barbeau on this show was a women's rights advocate. Well, she was really trying to break free of that and did all these really sexy roles, right? This is one of them. She's the DJ in the local radio station in the Fog. But I digress. Already at the beginning, Jamie Lee Curtis, her second collaboration with John Carpenter. Of course, you know her from Halloween and a bazillion things after that. Just a dynamite actress, and it sounds like just a really fun person to talk to. Janet Leigh, her mother, is in this movie. Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter of Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis. Who knew? Janet Leigh does a great cameo in this. Hal Holbrook is in this movie. Even John Houseman makes a cameo in this. Of course, most of you have seen this. If you haven't, do yourself a favor. This is like a late 70s, early 80s classic and a great movie. I didn't enjoy this movie as much when I saw it when it came out. I saw this movie in the theaters in 1980 when it came out. But watching it now, because it's basically the story of a small fishing village that was founded on money that they stole from a leper colony. And a fog comes in that carries the souls of these lepers to take revenge on the founders of the town, or on their relatives. Sorry, 3 o'clock in the morning, my brain's out of control. But it's got all the Carpenter regulars that he used in so many of his films back in the day. It's got Tom Atkins from Halloween 3. It's got George Buck Flower, who has got bit parts in so many of his movies. In this one, of course, in They Live, in Escape from New York. It's got Nancy Keys in it, who doesn't have a huge part in this, but is in this movie, who's also in Halloween, Escape from Precinct 13, as well as Halloween 3. Charles Cypher from Halloween, Escape from Project 13, and about 10,000 movies from the 80s and the 70s. You'll recognize him the moment that he comes up on the flashes on the screen here. Just a classic John Carpenter film. I'm going to be doing a show next week just to celebrate John Carpenter. I know that he's got a very specific style, and some people think that it's very dated. I'm not one of those people. I think If you look at Halloween, if you look at The Fog, The Prince of Darkness, They Live, Escape from New York. If you haven't seen Escape from Precinct 13, do yourself a favor and watch that movie. He's an amazing filmmaker, and I truly believe that it stood the test of time. The original Halloween, as campy as some of the scenes can be, is, when it came to Michael Myers, is still a scary movie. I love the remakes that have been done, but that original, the John Carpenter original Halloween, you can't beat. So of course, how am I not going to give a John Carpenter film two desiccated, decomposing thumbs way up the rectal cavities of any critic that downs this movie? I absolutely loved it. So that's that for this episode of Rev.Hagen's Horrific Cinematic Dissection. As always, I'm your host, Rev.Hagen, and as always, I'd like to thank the listeners of SCRMradio.com. Well, that's Scream. Radio.com for all your horror and paranormal needs. As always, my brothers and sisters, stay safe. Know the Rev loves you during this time of madness. You keep those heads up. Have a great night.